Hello, I'm Judy Stiles. Thank you for joining us on Newsmakers. Well, it's the time of year when people are making decisions regarding health care for 2018. And today we're going to take a look about what's involved when you're talking about finding health care and the marketplace. And joining me with Marketplace Project Coordinator, Camille Blake. Thank you for being here today.
Oh, you're welcome.
This is the time of year we're seeing a lot of news talking about choices and whether you work for a company or if you don't work for a company. Start planning for 2018.
Sure.
So I thought we'd explain, but let's start off when we say Marketplace Project Coordinator, your title, and how that ties into our topic.
Sure. So we have a team at Freeman. We're Freeman employees, but we work for the community. We're free, non-biased support to the community about how the ACA works, or the Affordable Care Act, how that affects people. If someone doesn't have coverage, do they have options through the Affordable Care Act and what they are? So we just help answer those questions and help them see what options they have,
So the Affordable Care Act has been around for a little while now.
Right.
We've heard a lot of pros and cons on the whole political side of things, but do people still have a lot of questions about it?
They do, because things change. They seem to evolve with change. And in doing so, they want to know how it's going to affect them. Is that going to be positive? Is it going to be negative? So they have a lot of questions, and that's what we're there for. We've been there for 5 years. Well, actually 4. This is our 5th. Let me be specific. This is our 5th enrollment period, but we've been a project for about 4 years. So since over those years, we've evolved as well, and through that involvement, a lot of things change, and people ask us questions, and they depend on us to know what those answers are, just so they can make a qualified decision.
So even though we're talking about starting November 1st with the enrollment, you're there year-round. If somebody has questions in July, they can call and find out what's happening.
Right, yeah, because it's possible that somebody could lose their coverage. They could move in from another state. There's all kinds of different situations that might open them up to a special enrollment period. And so, we're there year-round. Plus, we teach health insurance literacy, as well as health literacy and wellness. So how to access your insurance, how to use your insurance, what do the things on your card mean, that type of stuff too. So there's a little bit more involved.
A lot more involved than just talk about November 1st.
Right.
So we have an open enrollment period for this Marketplace insurance plan, and there's a certain time period. Tell us about that.
Sure. So this year, fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, but there's a 6-week window where we used to have a 12-week window. So folks could come, for a while there and get the enrollment. But it starts November 1st and will end on December 15th. So we're really encouraging everyone that is either in a Marketplace plan currently and wants to review what's available for options for 18 to come in and look. And those that may need coverage, don't have coverage, maybe they're a new enrollee, just to come look at what the options are. They're never obligated. Just because they go through an application doesn't mean they're obligated to choose anything. It just sets them in a position to be able to look at everything and obviously assess and make a qualified decision.
So we have a 6-week time period. A lot more is going to be happening in a shorter period of time.
Right, yes, and that's why we've been, trying to get the word out as much as we can, and we're not the only entity that does this. We work alongside of Mercy, we work alongside of Cox Springfield, we work alongside of different entities that also do the same thing that we do. So if you're in a different area, we could probably connect you with people in that area to do the same thing. But everybody has that smaller window and time frame, so we just want everybody to know that.
So big awareness aspect right now, the campaign to make people aware. And you mentioned the other people in other areas. I know our program is seen over in Kansas and parts of Oklahoma, so even though we may be talking about things in Missouri, they probably have a comparable system in their state for finding out information.
They do, and so if they would like us to find out who is close to them, or the closest assister to them, we can do that. If we're the closest one, we can help them. So we've helped a lot of folks in both Kansas and Oklahoma to get options through the Marketplace.
So what are some of the biggest questions or concerns you're hearing from people leading into the enrollment period? There's been a lot of talk nationally, locally. What are some of the biggest concerns you're hearing?
So locally, some of the biggest concern has been that Anthem has decided to be specific with what counties they're going to offer plans in. And because of that, a lot of people that had Anthem this year have gotten letters.
And we're no longer going to offer it.
Right, and we're no longer going to offer it, just to give you a heads up. And so their question is, well, what is my option then? I've had this for several years. It's worked well. What's my option this year? So we serve 4 counties. We serve Barton, Jasper, Newton, and McDonald. And so in Barton County and McDonald County, Anthem is going to remain. So that's their option. Now it's not going to just be one plan. It'll be several plans to choose from.
But one company with several plans.
Yes, ma'am. And then in Newton and Jasper, it's going to be a parent company called Centene. Their product's called Home State Health. So they'll be in Jasper and Newton. Again, one company, several to choose from, but folks want to know that information. They're like, what am I looking at?
I have this card
this
now
year?
that says Anthem. What am I going to use next year?
Right. And how does that work? And, you know, do we know about this company? And what do we know about this company? Those types of things.
And this is based on where people live. I mean,
It
not
is.
necessarily what hospital they're going to go to. Their insurance is based on their residency.
They're, well, the way that they calculate their tax credit, which is the financial assistance that is associated with the Affordable Care Act.
Right.
So that's the part, like, if I can, like, make a small nutshell of what the Affordable Care Act, it's so complex, but I would say it's the tax credit. So depending on your county, your household size, your income, they're going to look at, and your age, they're going to look at those demographics, and they're going to give you a certain amount of a tax credit they're going to pay on your behalf to the insurance company for your plan to be more affordable.
Okay. Well, that ties into recent news about an executive order that said something about subsidies going away. People are saying, well, I thought they're taking money away from the insurance companies. How do you answer those questions?
Right. It gets a little complex because when you talk about a tax credit reducing a person's premium that makes it affordable, then that's, you know, if that's what they're talking about, then that's like, oh, I need to know more information about that, because that's going to negatively affect me if that goes away. That is what is staying. So currently, the tax credit that is offered to lower the premium is still intact.
It's still in the plan for when you file your taxes.
As of right now.
Things change.
They do change. We'll keep you updated, but that has not changed. What has changed is the cost sharing reductions, or CSR. That is where companies were reimbursed by the government to give out-of-pocket costs a discount. So your out-of-pocket maximum, your deductible, your co-pays, they were all reduced in certain plans.
Right.
And to compensate for that, the government reimbursed the insurance companies. That's what ended.
Okay.
So it's not that an insurance company won't offer a discount in those areas. They may continue to do that, which would be a positive. The only concern is that they would, their premiums would raise, because they would,
They're going
want
to
to be
lose some money in the
compensated.
dollars and cents coming in and out. Right.
Right. Somewhere they're going to find how to compensate that, not being in play anymore. And so the concern is that the premiums may raise on an average up to 20%. But what we have seen in the past is that and they do every year, when those rates raise, we also see that the tax credit, which is still in play, it increases as well.
So they try to balance it on the other side.
And so they try to balance it on the other side, so that the increase in the rate of the premium isn't so shocking or overwhelming, that it still remains affordable for the consumer. Yeah.
So there are a lot of factors involved when someone's looking at the insurance. You mentioned family size and so forth, and income. So there's no one X dollars buys this package. It kind of ties into your situation, your family, your individual situation.
It's extremely individualistic to the person or to the family, yes. Because it's possible that income for a four-person household might allow the children to be covered by Medicaid. So within the application, that process is weaved in, so it's checking for that as well, just to make sure. Or maybe they qualify for the CHIP program, where they're paying a small premium for that for their children. So there's a lot of things that are being done with one application.
So finding out information, now, obviously you're here to help provide that. I know that the people want to face-to-face, but can they go online? Can they start looking for information before they even were to call and say, let's sit down and talk about it?
Sure. Yeah, they can definitely go to covermissouri.org. There's a lot of places on there where they can find local help. So if they want to find help local to where they are, they can put their zip code in and find that.
We see the website as we're talking here. So,
oh, yes. And so there's also healthcare.gov, which people are free to go on, obviously, by themselves and navigate by themselves. They don't have to have us to do that. But if they come up with some questions or some barriers or things that they don't understand, that's why we're here. I mean, we've had folks that particularly like to do it on their own. And if they get into a situation where they're unsure of themselves, they give us a call. But they handle it themselves. And then there's those that want to just see us every year because, they feel confident that working together together is their best way of processing
those
it.
decisions,
so,
right.
right. So, yeah, it's completely up to the consumer, obviously.
Well, the covermissouri.org, explain for the viewers, what is that? A statewide program, obviously. So.
It is. It's a statewide program. It's a coalition. It's up to about 900 members now. Yeah. And we all work together to just get the information out to our local communities about what is offered through the Affordable Care Act and how can we assist the community with their health care. And it's not just the marketplace. I mean, folks obviously have that option through that application to see if they're qualified for Medicaid. But then folks that are on Medicare, we have folks that have a spouse that may be on Medicare, so we do referrals so they can find supplements. Any way we can help someone access their health care, use it efficiently, we're working within that dynamic.
So there's a lot of questions at different stages of life as well. You mentioned the children earlier, but as people retire and they get into that world of Medicare and supplements and so forth, I imagine you get a lot of questions. What do I do now?
We do, and I think sometimes too, I'd love to mention this, is that when folks retire, early enough where they're not going to go ahead and pick up their Medicare yet. Sometimes they're like, well, do I only have the option of COBRA for the next 2 or 3 years until I age onto Medicare? And that's not, they don't have to take COBRA. They're not obligated. Sometimes COBRA's pretty expensive. They'd like to see if they have other options. And through the marketplace, we've been able to help a lot of folks in that retiree stage where they come in and they look at options, and it's far more affordable for the next couple years that they need it to go that direction than even COBRA. So
kind of fill those years with what's available in the marketplace versus what came from their company.
Correct. Yeah, being that it's far more expensive usually with COBRA, but that's an option for them. Don't have to take it, but they can at least look and see what it is.
So giving them an awareness that these are the options and what is going on from there. So,
right.
So there's, as you mentioned, the Affordable Care Act talking about tying it to filing your income taxes and so forth. So the real incentive is it's going to cost you money if you don't take this health care insurance plan. I mean, the government has built that into the insurance income tax side of things.
They've built it into the income tax, yes. So if you have coverage through your employer, you're covered.
Yeah, you've got a letter from the employer every year that says you're fine.
Yes. If you have marketplace insurance, you're covered. If you have Medicaid, Medicare, you're covered. If someone has TRICARE through the Veterans Administration, they're covered. Indian benefits. So American Indians are exempt from penalty if they have a benefit. So all of that applies and is qualifying coverage. But if you don't have anything offered to you by an employer, maybe we deal with a lot of self-employed where they don't offer coverage for themselves or just,
their company's so small, they're just have to.
Right. And they come and they ask questions. We deal with a lot of farmers too. And, they're able to find something that's going to work for them or their family or just a few folks. They come individually, of course. But, so it's helpful to them in that situation to make sure that they're covered and they're not going to receive a penalty at the end of the year.
And then we have the coverage now for, was it 25 or 26 for dependents for people who, and children?
26, 26. Yes. So parents, if the kid's on that plan, you go ahead. It's good for them.
Maybe not for the cost of the parents, right?
Right.
But then when that child, or child at that point, that young adult turns 27, then they are on their own to try to find their own plan if they don't have it through their employer. So.
Right. If they're not offered anything through their employer, then they can come and look at marketplace plans. I know we have a lot of med students that have reached out to us locally that, obviously are at that transition. They're old enough to not be on their parents' plan anymore. So they want to know what the options are because they need the coverage. And then there's some folks that just their parents aren't able to provide that for them. And, they have a job, but the job is part-time. It doesn't offer them any coverage. And so they're able to see what their options are too. Yeah.
Are you finding more questions? You mentioned the part-time. A lot of people are working part-time jobs versus a full-time benefits type job. You're finding more people that maybe fall into that category. I've got 2 jobs, but neither one pay benefits type of situation.
Yes, we've found a lot of folks like that. And what's interesting too is because it's dependent on your income. Let's say, for instance, an individual has a part-time job and maybe they go to school most of the time, full-time, then sometimes that income level doesn't meet the threshold to purchase insurance with a financial help with the tax credit. So there's a threshold. It's like you have to have at least a certain amount of income for an individual to receive this financial assistance. And in that case, then they're exempt from penalty. Now, that might not be a benefit because they really want the coverage, or maybe they are, you know, they have a health care need that they want to make sure is
covered for them,
taken care of, right? So that may not be a benefit. The unfortunate side of that is that Missouri didn't expand their Medicaid, and so there's a gap.
So there's fewer dollars available in Missouri for Medicaid coverage.
Right.
Okay.
So the Affordable Care Act was built on this idea that all states would have an expanded Medicaid program, and in doing so there would be no gap. If you didn't qualify with your income level at that threshold for an individual, then you would be qualified for Medicaid. But states were allowed to choose that option. Right. We chose not to. And then, therefore, from about 18% of the federal poverty level to 100%, there's a gap. Now, they're all exempt from penalty, so they're not going to be penalized. Right. But it's difficult.
The coverage isn't there for that type of situation.
Yeah, and it's a difficult situation when you have a two-person household with a family member who's ill, and they need that coverage, and their income level just doesn't bring them to the place where they can afford it. That's when it's difficult, especially to communicate that information. But that's why we're here. We just want it to be accurate, and we want it to, you know, at least give people that, not just that ability to make a decision, but also to know where they stand.
So when you look at the websites, the information, you know, it talks about price comparisons, household tax credit estimator on the Cover Missouri, that gives people kind of ballpark figure type situations.
It does. It does on Cover Missouri as well on healthcare.gov. Yeah, it gives them a ball. It's not always exact, but it's really, really close.
So it's a good starting point for someone to say, where do I stand?
Yeah, you can see plans and prices on those websites for 17, not currently for 18 yet. November 1st, that'll play out. But for 17, you can look at, say you've lost your coverage recently. I've had several people come to
It's too early to enroll for 18, but you still need something for the last
couple months. Yeah. And so you can go on there and you can put in your demographics. It takes maybe less than 5 minutes, and you can find out, ballpark figure, what your plans would cost you. And that helps, you know, it helps to be able to see that. And it also is not time consuming, so if you don't want to go through the application to find that information out, you could do that quickly.
Just right off the top, here's the information for us to look at.
Yeah, and then if it looks like it's a benefit, then okay, let's go ahead and do the application.
Well, I know when people even looking at company or corporate provided health insurance, there's a lot of choices on different rates for deductibles and those types of things. Do they have similar choices when they're looking at health care? You know, I'm going to pay more out of pocket, but they're going to cover more for me and coverage before I meet my deductible?
Absolutely. Yeah, so they're going to see, they're going to be able to compare apples to apples. They're going to be able to see exactly what the premium is, what the deductible is, what the out-of-pocket costs are, whether you see a specialist or a primary emergency room care, their prescription drug plan. They're going to be able to see their out-of-pocket maximum, and then we can get even more detailed than that, and we can go through every bit of it. We can make sure that, you know, all the physicians that they currently use are in network for those plans. We can make sure that the drugs that are on the formulary that they use, just so that they feel like that they have, you know, tapped into everything that's available to make a qualified decision.
Now, I know one of the terms we've heard a lot this year is pre-existing conditions. So is that something that will continue? If somebody has something they're treated for, they can look for these plans and not be excluded because of some condition that they may have had.
Right. So the Affordable Care Act actually, as I understand from the beginning, pre-existing conditions don't exist as far as any question, especially through marketplace plans. So
they don't ask about your background, what you've had before, or what's happening.
No, not at all. And so the law, if it continues, that is part of the law. So no, there's no questions that ask about your background or anything that you've had in the past. There's no medical question on the application.
So it deals with the demographics, your finances, your family situation, all those types of things. So, now, once someone chooses a plan, say we're, you know, November 1st, they go online, they meet with you, they choose a plan. Are they locked into that plan for a year, or are there options? Family situations change, things like that.
Sure, there's always something that could, you know, change that situation. So they have about a month. 30 days to make a decision. So they don't have to make a decision.
So you don't have to go in on November 1st and say, this is what I'm going to have for sure.
No, no. You can just kind of take it in for a minute, talk to your family, whatever you need to do, and then make a decision. Or you know, or just go somewhere privately and do it. You can do that too. Or I know some folks, they definitely, they just want the support, and they want to be able to just look at all of that, you know, just so they can understand what the best option is for them.
So instead of weaving through the internet on their own, they're able to meet and follow up, which brings me up to a flyer that you have. You have sessions where people can come by and visit and find out.
Yes. Yes, so we have a 5-person team, and like I said, we work with other local folks that do the same thing, but we're there to assist Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And actually, we're going to do a Saturday. It's November 4th. It's called Rock Enrollment Event, but we'll be at the Joplin Public Library. So we're available to ask questions on that date too.
We see the flyer on the screen, information for people, and then they just, how do they enroll? We have the phone number up there for you as well. I think if they scroll down, the phone number, right?
Yeah. They can schedule an appointment with our team, but like I said, they can go on healthcare.gov themselves if they want to take a look at it. They can call us to answer questions, or we can meet with them face to face and help them with the application. So just whatever most benefits them or fits their needs. Yeah, we just definitely want them to know that the cutoff date is December 15th.
In other words, put it on your to-do list before the holidays really set in.
Yes. But you know, they can always call and ask us questions, you know, at any time throughout that time and after that time. I think what too I'd like to mention is that making that first premium payment is really important. So to make sure your coverage is effective January 1st of 2018, the first payment is a binding payment. Even if you've had marketplace insurance in the past, that first payment's a binding payment
for the new system,
for the new system, for the new year, for the new contracts, all of that. And so just encouraging people to make sure that that's done on time, so that they don't see a lapse in coverage, or they don't, you know, miss a month or anything like that.
So insurance is paid in advance. I'm paying now for next month's coverage.
Right. So you'll pay sometime in December for January 1st, effective coverage for that month. Yes.
Okay. So those are all the things to help people as they budget and look ahead for next year.
Right.
And tying all that. But the rates when they sign up for that plan, will that be locked in more or less for the year?
Right. They won't change. So unless someone adds a member of the family to the plan, it could change in that case. If their income increases or decreases, then obviously that would be a situation where that that would readjust their tax credit, which would readjust the amount of the premium. So yeah, there are those types of situations, and past the 15th, or past the time that they've been able to enroll, then they are locked in for that year, except for certain situations like we were just describing.
Upcoming situations with families.
And it's interesting, those that are American Indian status, when they shop, they at times, depending on their income, not at all times, but at sometimes can see a zero out-of-pocket cost, just because they're of American Indian status.
The government benefits that are already coming as American Indian.
They're able to pick plans every month if they want to. So they can choose every month.
So different situations, and individuals need to find out what their situation is and so forth. So do you recommend that people start early? I mean, November 1st is the starting time. And people might be saying, well, they're still talking Washington. What do I do? You know? Right.
Well, the law still stands at the moment. So that's why we're still here. We're still giving out this information to the community. And as it changes, we'll be doing that as well. But yeah, if you can start early, that's best. Almost my entire team, our first 2 weeks are pretty much booked out for 5 folks. So yeah, people are calling.
So now make your appointment to come in that second week of November.
Yes, come in and sit down and talk with us. Yeah, we'd love to help in any way that we can.
Do they need to bring anything with them when they come in? Do they need last year's tax records or anything to verify what they're saying?
That's a great question. So if you're a new enrollee, it would be a good thing to bring in your income information, your Social Security numbers for your whole entire household. If there's any benefits from an employer, an email address is really important to start the application with. If you can, and this may sound silly, but to access that email. So while we're right there and we're starting the application, we use your email address to open the app, and then you will have to click a link to verify.
So they're going to send you a message
saying they're going to send you an immediate message. And sometimes folks, maybe they use their computer at home and it's logged in at home, but they are not sure
they don't have the password to get to
it. Right, how to access it. So we encourage you to have if you have a smartphone, that's the best way to, access it on site with us. And that's for new enrollees. Re-enrollees, usually their income information, their username and password, because they already have an account.
They were given a username and password when they started a year ago or whatever.
Right. So, and if they met with us prior to that, they usually have a folder with all their information and all their passwords and all of that within it. So they just bring that folder back, and their username and password is in there. But their income information and any dynamics that might have changed. Their household size, or maybe they had a dependent last year, but the dependent's 19 now, and they're not going to claim them anymore or something.
So they're going to drop some of the plan, right?
Maybe they're a two-person household this year. So yeah, any type of changes that can happen progressively during the year, and we can help them do that at that time. So there's a 60-day window for those changes. But at open enrollment, then we're doing the same thing.
Have that information up front as you go into it. So if someone had a plan or has a plan right now for 2017, don't assume that maybe it's the best deal for 2018. Take the time to look into it. It's good for them to investigate.
It is good. Just because of all the changes that have been going on, we encourage people to come in and do that. Now, they don't have to. If they currently have a plan, it will just roll over into a plan that is similar. They don't have to, but we really encourage it because we don't want to see them end up with something that may not meet their needs or cover their current physicians or prescription drugs. So yeah, it's good to make that effort just to come check, just so you know that you got the right one.
Well, Camille, any final thoughts if you're someone who's watching, that say, well, this might be something I'm interested in, or I need to find out about this because I have to do it this year, I didn't last year?
Sure. Just have them call us at Freeman at 417-347-8888. We have a team there. We'd love to help. And of course, if someone needs help in other counties or other states, we're there to help, get them connected to someone that can do the same type of work that we do here. So just helping the community. We also help employers too, who want maybe some information on the Affordable Care Act for their employees, or they're thinking about their benefits in a different way for this year. So we can go in and do that as well. But yeah, just give us a call, and if we can meet your need, we'll do that.
Great. Well, I'd like to thank you for taking the time today, visiting with the audience and sharing this information so people are prepared as the November 1st quickly approaching and actually be passed as this program continues to air.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'd like to thank you, the viewers, for joining us this week on Newsmakers. I'm Judy Stiles. Hope you can join me again next week at the same time on the station. We'll see you then.